It's Newcastle's final game of the season at St. James's Park. So what's going to be my final score prediction for this game? Who's going to win it? Obviously playing against Brighton, against the Seagulls. Who are going to be the key players? Find out at the end of this video. Guys, before we go into the tactical breakdown, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's get right into it. Let's get into the team's forms. How are both teams going into this game? What shape are they in exactly? And also, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Eddie Howe mentioned in his press conference, which also alludes to, I think, some of the keys to victory that I think Eddie Howe sees in this game. And I also am in agreement with him. Right, so let me see. So as you guys can see, I think Eddie Howe particularly talked about the 3-1 loss to, or I think it was 3-0. I'm sure it was 3-0. 3-0 loss to Brighton at the Amex Arena, which obviously happened this season. And he pointed out the physical, that this was due to the physical side of things and the tactical side of things. We'll go into that point again. And he also looked at a game that where we won 4-1 at St. James's Park last year, and we qualified for the Champions League. Those are incredible scenes. So those are the two things that he pointed out and looked at, and we'll look at the key themes in that. So as you guys can also see, the form of the teams. Newcastle doing fantastically well in our last. That's the waveform. Goodness gracious, that isn't as good. But the last 6 games, Newcastle have won 4, drawn 1, lost 1, scoring 15. That's 2 goals per game. That's fantastic. And conceding 5 with a +10 goal difference, 13 points. Brighton, on the other hand, obviously they won against Aston Villa, which was a game away, and done fantastically well. However, in their last 6 games, they've lost 3 games, drawn 2, and won 1. Obviously, that was against Aston Villa, as mentioned, getting 5 points of a -9 goal difference. And I think people have been overly critical, in my view, of De Zerbi, forgetting that he'd lost McAllister and Caicedo through transfers, and he's got a massive injury list as well. It's the first time I looked at a team's injury list this season doing this previews, and they've actually got a longer injury list than Newcastle. Obviously, we've got a few players coming back in, and to be able to, if you can imagine us losing Joe Linton and Bruno with the injuries that we have as well, it would be absolutely detrimental to our season as well. So I think Roberto De Zerbi has been overly criticised. However, going into this game, Newcastle are scoring more, conceding less, and getting more points than Brighton, and that's the key feature in this in terms of the form going forward. Now, Eddie Howe, as I mentioned, this is the game where we lost 3-1. I still think it's 3-0. I don't know why it's coming up as 3-1. Brighton are in orange, Newcastle in blue. Eddie Howe pointed to 2 things: the physicality and the tactical issues, which was the result of why we lost that game in the first place. So what is he talking about? Physically, obviously, Newcastle had already been playing a number of games up to that point, and I think he's alluding to the tiredness that the players were feeling at the time, and it's quite new to them, especially at that time. The other thing is the tactical, and I want to point this out, what he means by that. If you look at Newcastle on the blue side, the numbers 39, which is Bruno Gomes, number 7, Joe Linton, and number 8, just a little bit further up, Tonali. Now, Tonali, this is his 2nd or 3rd game, so this is not being overly critical. He was still learning how the team is playing. He's very far away from Bruno Gomes. He's supposed to be where just like how Joe Linton is tucked in next to Bruno. That's where Tonali was. He was overly aggressive in the press. And what happened was, if you can go to the orange side, number 9, Evan Ferguson, who was the hat-trick hero of that game, would drop in and plug that gap together with Pascal Gross and Billy Gilmore, who I think are in the 11 and 5, and they absolutely flooded that midfield. You know how good they are on the ball and the passing, and they absolutely played for the middle of us. Our midfield was almost non-existent. They made for the middle of us, and they absolutely destroyed us with, like I said, Evan Ferguson being the hat-trick hero of that game. Where Newcastle got things right, though, was last year at St. James's Park in that marvellous victory, we won 4-1. And let's look again at that midfield. number 39, Bruno Gomes, number 7, Joe Linton, and number 28, who is none other but Joe Willock. So the physical side and the athletic side, you've got it in abundance in that with that midfield trio. And so they took the minion. But also look at the position on the tactical of those players. They're so close together, and they've taken that central part of the midfield, using their physicality and on their ball to push Brighton back. So not only are they close together, they've actually advanced and forced Brighton backwards, but they also linked up very well with the number 14, who's obviously Isak, and the number 29, who is Callum Wilson, who obviously scored in that game, and it allowed Newcastle to play through Brighton, which is what Brighton like to do, and really, really hurt them. And obviously we won 4-1. That was a spectacular victory. So there's two things that Eddie Howe needs in this game. He needs tactical supremacy and positional display, as well as physical or athletic dominion, in order to be able to enforce Newcastle's will over Brighton in this game. So how is he going to do that in this game coming up against Brighton? Well, the first thing I think he's not going to do, let me share. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me take that one off. Let me share a new screen with you guys. Let me take this off. The first thing he's not going to do is play. I don't think. I'll be amazed if he does. This is my opinion. The first thing what I don't think he's going to do is play the 4-4-2 as he did against Burnley, and that's Burnley, and they play a different side, and the 4-4-2 seeds that midfield dominion. So I think this is what he's going to do, as you guys can see on the screen. I think Eddie Howe is going to play 4-5-1 out of possession, and I think it's going to be 4-5-4-3-3, which is going to evolve into a 4-3-3 when in possession and on the attack. And as you can see, obviously, Hall, Burn, and Kraft and Memento make the back four with Joe Linton and Bruno. And don't think playing in next to each other, but don't think Longstaff is going to be doing that wing role. He's going to be tucking in just like Joe Willock did, right next to Bruno Gomes. And what you will see is Isak roaming, either dropping in that midfield block, plugging the gaps, or maybe harassing, also supporting Wilson in harassing the Brighton backline when they're playing with the ball. Gordon would be doing a similarish thing, and they did that really, really well, I think, in the Burnley game. How they not only in attack but also out of possession. You would see Gordon and Isak often swapping positions together in a very fluid manner, with the ball and out of the ball. And I think that's what's going to happen. So you can see that out of possession, Newcastle are going to be very, very solid, in particular in the midfield, protecting that back line, but also ready to counter press through Joe Linton winning the ball, Gomes winning the ball, Longstaff hopefully winning the ball, and either passing it on to Isak, Gordon, and Wilson, and turning on the Brighton defense in order to win the game. And as you can see, Brighton obviously are going to, this is us again in the 4-5-1. Brighton are going to be trying to harass us. They're going to, through Welbeck, they're trying to make sure that Kraft gets on the ball. They're going to try to prevent Gomes from getting on the ball, and Burn getting on the ball, who obviously from playing out the back. And they're going to try and get Kraft on the ball, who isn't as good on the ball as those guys. But what I think is going to happen is you're going to see Burn and Kraft dropping back deeper and creating space behind Adingra and behind Enciso, hopefully, with Hall and Livramento. And it's hopefully going to give Igor on the side, Igor, Julio, Enciso, and Veltman also. It's going to hopefully cause them to think twice. Do we press or do we not press? Because behind Igor, you're going to probably see Isak or Gordon in behind, as well as on the other side with Veltman and Enciso. Behind there's going to be Gordon and Joe Linton with the counter press, ready to take that ball and ready to hit them on the break. And like I said, Veltman isn't going to want to be one-on-one with Gordon and or Webster or Dunk, and or against Isak either. And that's going to be the press. I think Joe Linton is going to play a key role, especially because I fancy Joe Linton in a 1-1 battle against. Oh, my battery's low. Let me make sure I get it charged. I fancy Joe Linton in a one-on-one battle against Gross. I fancy Longstaff in a 1-1 battle against Gilmore, Billy Gilmore. And I fancy Bruno Gomes against the young João Pedro as well. And I think that's where Newcastle are going to try and take dominion. And as they do that, and I think if they do it successfully quite well, you're going to see Hall, you're going to see Livramento also pushing up. And I think, like I said, I think you're going to see, look out for those triangles between Hall and Bruno and Joe Linton, or Hall, Gordon, and Bruno. Bruno Gomes really trusts Lewis Hall. He plays, you would have seen in the Burnley game, he gives the ball to Hall all the time in tight spaces and open spaces. He really trusts Lewis Hall with that ball, and they play really, really well together. And I think that's what's going to really cause problems for Brighton as they try to press. That Newcastle will counter press and hit them with Joe Linton and Gordon, Isak, really coming up against them, and obviously Wilson keeping Webster and Dunk busy. So it's going to be an interesting tactical battle. But I think, like I mentioned, Eddie Howe's going to really focus in on the tactical display and the physical display of that game. And like I mentioned, Newcastle are going to go into a 4-3-3 in that game. They're going to try and hit Brighton on that counter. He's going to try and single out Joe Linton against Gross, Longstaff against Gilmore, Bruno against Pedro. You're going to see Enciso trying to drop in. They're going to try and force the play. But I think the 4-3-3 is what's going to do it for Newcastle. And that's them on the attack. And lastly, on this last section here, as you guys can see, that's when you're going to see also. This is I guess the beauty of the Brighton, why they use the 4-2-3-1. This is the main reason why they use the 4-2-3-1, and that's because it allows the two pivot players, Gross and Gilmore, to protect the back line. But again, you're going to see in that position, you're going to see Livramento, Kraft, and Byrne in that back three up against a Welbeck, and João Pedro is going to have to drop back. He's going to have to see what Bruno Gomes. If you can see Bruno Gomes gone to the side of Byrne, that's one of two things that Bruno can do. He can go on that left side of Byrne and do those triangles of Hall and Joe Linton around Enciso and Isak and overload that left side and come in from that left side against Brighton. It's going to be difficult for them to break out of that. Even if should they get the ball, they're going to try and hit it to Pedro and Welbeck, but they're going to be up against Byrne and Kraft and Livramento, who's got the pace as well. And it's going to be a difficult battle. It's going to be almost a similar thing with Bruno chooses to play to go through the centre with Joe Linton and join up with them as well. Gilmore, he's going to have to make a decision. Does he come out or does he stay? You're going to see Gordon, you're going to see Isak trying to go on a one-on-one against the wingmen as well. And I think that's going to be the beauty of Newcastle going from a 4-5-1 into a 4-3. Bruno is going to be a key man in this sort of position when Newcastle have the ball, how we play and how we recycle it, together with Hall especially, who's very, very good in those tight spaces and trying to unlock that Brighton defense. So that's my tactical breakdown of the game. I think Newcastle, should they do this, take tactical dominion and physical and athletic dominion in that game, it's going to be very, very difficult for Brighton, who have got stacking amount of injuries, are lacking experience, and have been on a bad run of form despite their victory against Aston Villa. They're going away against Newcastle. It's our last home game. We're playing for Europe as well. It's going to be very, very difficult for Aston Villa. I do predict that Newcastle will win this game. I probably see a repeat, actually. I see us winning 4-1. I do think we'll concede because we've been a little bit vulnerable to set pieces recently as well. Brighton have got physically really big players as well. I'd love to see us keep a clean sheet. So 4-1 to Newcastle. Last game at St. James's Park. That's my tactical breakdown. Let me know what you think. What do you think Howe will do? What formation? Do you think we'll keep the 4-4-2? Do you think Joe Linton comes in for Murphy? Or do you think Howe's not going to change that? Let me know what you think. And share your comments, like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, take care and God bless, folks.